CTA is the Corporate Transparency Act, which is a new law that was passed by Congress along with some of the COVID relief bills over the last couple of years. It requires businesses to report personal information on the names of all the beneficial owners and those with significant control over their organization, which includes members of senior management. And it requires them to disclose some very personal information, home address, birthday, and even things like driver's license number or passport ID. So it is going to cause companies to take a look at their organization and pull together a lot of really sensitive information on their senior executives and their beneficial owners and report that to the government for use in law enforcement. I'm Jim Martin from Cendrowski Corporate Advisors, and we're working with our clients to get ready for the implementation of the CTA beneficial reporting requirements. And that includes things like helping them analyze their corporate structure and holdings to see where they may have reporting obligations, helping them pull together information, analyzing some of their cap tables and ownership structures to identify who are their beneficial owners and who may be subject to reporting, helping then gather that personal information that would need to be filed, making sure all that data we gather is securely stored until it's filed with the proper authorities through their secure website, and trying to see if there's things that could be done to the organization by realigning things that may reduce the reporting burden by taking care of some of the things that would prevent them from realizing one of the exemptions from reporting. So all in all, then, it's following up with the reporting requirements, coming up with a timeline, and helping them make sure that everything is done on time and avoid any penalties and fines at the end of the day. Well, CTA applies to companies, and how they define it is companies that were formed by filing a document with the Secretary of State and their respective state of incorporation. So it includes, partnerships, S corporations, C corporations, LLCs. There are some exceptions. There's like 24 different exception categories, but they're mostly related to companies that are doing some sort of reporting to the government already, like insurance companies or CPA firms registered with the PCAOB. So it really is going to be most impactful on smaller business that didn't have to report things to the government before. Companies need to report for each and every one of their senior executives and beneficial owners a raft of personal information, including their name, their date of birth, their permanent home address, a photograph, and their driver's license number or passport ID number for identification purposes. So it is pretty significant and very sensitive information that's going to be stored in this new central database. Now, the fines of noncompliance are pretty steep. It's $500 a day for noncompliance, up to $10,000. So companies really have to understand what the requirements are and get going on preparing all this information, be ready to send it in so they can be in compliance in a timely manner. So the reporting starts January 1st, 2024, and all companies who were formed prior to January 1st, 2024 have all of 2024 to comply with the reporting requirements. Companies formed in 2024 only have 30 days to make their initial disclosures, although the IRS is talking about making it 90 days, but right now it's within 30 days. There are things that can be done to try to reduce the amount of reporting burden on companies, but any structural changes or reorganizations or any of those other corporate changes would need to be done by December 31st, 2023 in order to avoid the reporting requirements, because as soon as it's 2024, that reporting starts and it's as of that date. Once we're in 2024, if a company does a reorganization or change things, they would have reported already, and if they make significant changes or someone becomes a new beneficial owner or there's a new person with significant control, there would need to be amended reports for that person filed. So it really locks in once we get to 2024. Some of the things that can be done to reduce the reporting burden would include either reorganizing the organization to reduce the ownership levels such that people aren't viewed to be in significant control, or by looking at some of the other exceptions that are out there. For example, a number of our real estate clients are looking at They have a bunch of different real estate entities that just own property, no employees, and they're owned by the actual owners of the organization. Taking a look to see if by moving another entity in the middle that would own all these underlying properties, and that organization would have more than 25 employees, they would be exempt from reporting. So it's trying to find other ways in order to move companies into an exempt status. And there are a few things that can be done that should be looked at in those areas. A lot of the exemptions apply to companies that already are doing reporting to the government through either a stock exchange, insurance companies, some CPA firms, but there is one that is for large operating companies, and that's defined as a company that employs more than 20 full-time employees in the United States with a physical office, with gross receipts or sales exceeding $5 million in the year previous, so it would be in 2023, would be exempt from reporting. And so that's something that maybe by bundling a few entities together, somebody could move their organization into a non-reporting status by making it in the category of a large operating company. FinCEN is still developing the reporting website, which they say is going to be available in later this year, prior to the reporting deadline beginning in 2024, but it's not available yet. But it'll be some sort of a portal with a form, and the company needs to register and put in their information, and then the company has to say, and here are our beneficial owners and key executives, and that will open up detail that lets them put that in too. So we don't really know exactly what that site's going to look like or what sort of fields are going to be on there, but that would be the general structure based on what the law actually says. The data that's put in the central repository that's being gathered by FinCEN can be shared with law enforcement. It's not subject to FOIA. It's not going to have a public-facing portal, but it can be accessed by banks and who are looking to investigate money laundering, and law enforcement at the federal level, and then state and tribal level. If they have a search warrant, they can ask for the information that'll be provided. FinCEN also participates with a number of other counterparts around the world, and so it's expected that the data that's gathered from the CTA beneficial reporting information could be made available to foreign law enforcement bodies as well who are working on a specific investigation. Security experts have raised concern that based on some of the previous data releases that it is sensitive information that could be subject to hackers, and certainly it would provide a treasure trove of information to interested parties. So the industry is hopeful that the government has a very strong container to save the sensitive information. If you go to our website, you can find a comprehensive questionnaire that will go through all the requirements for determining if your organization is going to be subject to reporting, and how to determine if a person is a beneficial owner of the organization. When you visit our website, you can find an ebook that describes all the details behind the CTA and in-depth information about the reporting requirements, fines, penalties, and all the exemptions that are out there from reporting requirements. So we're planning a webinar to talk about issues and CTA, and right now one's scheduled for December 5th at noon Eastern time. That's a Tuesday, and if you want to participate, please send us an email at cca@cencel.com or visit our website on the Contact Us page, which is cca-advisors/contact, and put in the subject line webinar, and we'll sign you up and send you an email back. If you have questions about your particular circumstances and would like to speak to us directly, please call us at 866-717-1607 and let us know you'd like to arrange for a discussion around CTA, which we will do free of charge for you. Or you can send us an email to cca@cencel.com or through the Contact Us link on our website, which is cca-advisors.com/contact.